We live in a restless, noisy world. The crash of waves on a small boat, the noise of gunfire and the explosions of bombs, the shouts of the marketplace and the wail of a hungry child, the dumb pleading of the addict's needle and the protests of the oppressed, the frustrated anger of the unemployed and the scream of the tortured, the restless noise of machines, the clamant knocking of the prisoner, and the noisy silence of unforgiveness. Out of the depths of our noise, we cry to you, O Lord, the never ceasing prayer of your people, with your people, for your people, that the discordant clamour of your world may be turned into symphonies of peace, love, and joy. May the voice of prayer be never silent. God is not deafened by our noise. He opens his ears wider when we cry. So may your deliberations be fruitful, respectful, and for the benefit of all Preston's citizens. Amen.
Right, afternoon, everybody. I need to remind you that officers are recording the public part of this meeting today, and it will again be uploaded to the council's YouTube channel after the meeting. There are no plans for a fire alarm test. If you hear the alarm, please leave the building by the nearest exit. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off. Restrooms are located on all floors, but please ask a member of staff for details should you require one. Members of the public, members and officers, you're reminded that under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014, the press and public may film, audio record, photograph and use social media whilst the meeting is in progress for Part A items only, and as long as no disruption is caused to the meeting. Anyone filming is asked to focus their attention on elected members rather than other visitors. Now, it is my sad duty to inform you that John Meredith, who was a staff member in the Neighbourhood Services Department for 34 years, sadly passed away at the end of January. John began as a street cleansing labourer, driver, and then later a HGV driver for the Refuse and Recycling Service. During his many years at the council, he was an active trade union steward and health and safety representative who took pride in supporting his members. He volunteered to work long hours in both the 1992 and 2012 Preston Guilds, and he and his colleagues were featured in the Lancashire Evening Post in photographs with the Guild Mayor, Councillor Harold Parker, in 1992. John was diagnosed with diabetes some years ago, and his colleagues have raised a considerable amount for Diabetes UK in John's memory. John will be greatly missed by all his friends and colleagues, and our thoughts and prayers are with his two grown-up sons, David and Max, and other family members. Can you now all join me in a minute's silence as we pay our respects to John? Thank you. Now, may I remind members that they must not vote on any business relating to the calculation required for the setting of the council tax and related matters, and any decisions which affects the council tax calculations if they are in arrears of council tax at least 2 months since it became payable. Finally, depending on how we get on with time, I may at some point adjourn the meeting for a comfort break. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? Councillor Darby.
Thank you. I'm a member of a parish council, a PACS group, and Preston City Committee, all of which are mentioned in the budget items later.
Councillor Potter.
I'm also a parish councillor, Madam Mayor.
Oh, Councillor Ward. Councillor Guise. Councillor Bell. Councillor Rutter.
Parish council.
Councillor Jewell. All right, that's fine. Thank you. So as previously notified, paragraph 10.5.6 of the Code of Conduct states that a member will not have a prejudicial interest if the matter relates to the setting of the council taxes. There is an exemption. Additionally, due to a dispensation granted by the Standards Committee in June 2022 in relation to members' disclosable pecuniary interests due to their interest in land, members will be permitted to debate and vote on the business to be transacted. And also, please be advised that I have the benefit of a dispensation granted by the Standards Committee on the 20th March 2023 due to my employment as a parish clerk, and therefore I am permitted to debate and vote on the business to be transacted. Item 3 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of January 2026. Are members happy that I sign the minutes as a correct record? Thank you. Item 4 is questions from members of the public. However, there have been no questions submitted for this meeting. Item 5, questions to Cabinet members and chairs of committees and representatives of outside bodies. Members are entitled to ask a question of any Cabinet member or chair of a committee within their portfolio or terms of reference. There may be only one supplementary question asked, provided it is relevant to the question. We haven't received any written notifications for questions for members appointed to serve on outside bodies. If anyone has any questions to ask on any information-only items, they should do this at this point, as another opportunity will not be given when we reach the item. Members should also note that more than one question may be asked on different topics, but if in that case, your second question may be placed at the end of the hour. Anybody got any questions? Thank you. Nope. Okay, right. So the first one is Councillor Iqbal, please.
Thank you. Is one of the most comprehensive cost of living packages to the council. Councillors Perfuse. Could the leader please update the council as to any progress?
Thank you very much, Councillor Iqbal. It is very important, actually. So it's been very successful, our cost of living set of measures. £32,000 has gone to over 170 large families who've received up to £400. We got a big take up we're getting now for the free swimming measures, which includes young, old, disabled, pregnant individuals and others. Obviously, work to follow around ensuring terminally ill residents don't have to pay council tax. But also we're writing this week to 1,100 pensioners who will all be entitled to £100. And these are pensioner households that basically are entitled to council tax support, but not pension credit. So these are basically the individuals who missed out in 2024 when government restricted winter fuel payments, which later changed. So I'd encourage every single member to encourage people to get these benefits. These are localised benefits. On this side of the chamber, we really do care about those less well off. And you'll see that in today's budget, that we care about those who are struggling in Preston. Thank you very much, Javid. Thank you.
Is there a supplementary, Councillor Iqbal? Thank you for that. Councillor McMahon, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The question is for Councillor Rawlinson. Councillor Rawlinson, I'm sure you would agree that the aspirations of this council can only be achieved through the hard work, dedication and professionalism of all of the staff at the council. As such, would you also agree that local government workers in Preston and across the country deserve a real terms pay increase, and that pay increase should be fully funded through central government?
Quite sure this group would support that. Public sector workers generally, especially the lower rungs of the payment ladders,
are just around the minimum wage. Some of them, some civil servants and local government staff had to get a pay rise when the minimum wage went up because they were below it. So this myth that, you know, all council workers or civil servants are in these gold-plated jobs and gold-plated pensions, it's just nonsense. The average civil service pension is quite low, in fact. People tend to come and go these days. They don't all have, you know, 30 years pension contributions and final salary pension schemes. It's just not the case. So obviously this council pays the foundation living wage, so our lower paid workers are on a better rate than many. The Labour controlled LCC a number of years ago did that, and that's still in place there. So thousands of people in Preston are getting the foundation living wage compared to other public sector workers who are getting national minimum wage or just above. So we would very much support such a call.
Have you got a supplementary, Councillor McMahon? Thank you for that. Councillor Crowe, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question's to Valerie, Councillor Wise. It sort of follows on from what Martin's just been saying. Could we have an update on the living wage, please?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Crowe. And yeah, it does follow on really well because obviously we're delighted, as we've done since 2012, paid the real living wage to our lowest paid staff. And that's really, really important. We're doing better in Lancashire in terms of Preston, in terms of paying the real living wage with the best local authority. We've got the fewest people in our city earning below the real living wage than anywhere else in Lancashire. And I think that's partly to do with the fact we are a living wage city and obviously are strongly campaigning and encouraging employers to become real living wage employers. I can tell you, we've now just got a new living wage employer, WASH, who the council does work with, and they've now become accredited. The North and Western Chamber of Commerce have now accredited. And we've got 4, I won't name them, but we've got 4 companies who are in the process of accrediting. So that's really good. But I would encourage, if you do know of firms who've got their headquarters here, and particularly if they're a small and medium enterprise company, we still have got some grant money which would pay their accreditation fee, obviously not pay the real living wage, but pay the accreditation fee for the first year. And so I think that's really, really important. So if we get everybody accredited that's in the process, then we'll have reached 46. Our target for the end of 2025 was 44. Obviously, we've still got more. And I can also tell you that we're meeting the Real Living Wage Foundation in next week to actually discuss the council becoming a living hours council as well. And I would really like that to happen because the only other authority in the country that's a living hours authority is the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. So I would love us as the first local authority in Lancashire to become a living hours accredited. So thank you for the question.
Have you got a supplementary, Councillor Crowe? No, thank you. Councillor Varty, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for the Cabinet Member for Art and Culture, Councillor Hindle. Please could you inform the Council of the outcome of the recent Visit England assessment at the Harris, please?
Thank you, Councillor Varty. I have the report here if anyone's interested. Basically, I'm delighted with the recent Visit England assessment of the Harris. They were awarded a 90% quality score. This is testament to the Cabinet's vision for the Harris and the hard work of all the staff team in delivering this fantastic end result. It's very rare for a first assessment to get such a high score. This builds on the having over 190,000 visitors since opening. And we've also done over 250 press items covering the reopening and overwhelmingly the positive result we've had from our visitors. So it's great to have this recognised as an accredited visitor attraction, and it's a fantastic start to the reopened Harris. Particular strengths identified during the visit included the Harris website, the innovative design of the blended library spaces, and the diverse exhibition program, supported by a varied year-round program of events and activities. The high-quality retail offer in the Harris shop, the food and the beverage provision in the Harris Cafe, and the excellent new visitor facilities included the upgraded toilets. They were all recognised as key enhancements to the overall visitor experience. Across the entire visit, the cheerful, enthusiastic and welcoming staff were identified as a standout feature of the overall visitor experience. So achieving such a high score for the first assessment, as I said, is really rare. So I'm particularly proud of this achievement in laying the foundation for our visitor economy work launching this year. Thank you.
Have you got a supplementary, Councillor Varty? No, thank you. Councillor Saxena, please.
Madam Mayor, my question is to Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bailey, there's been quite a lot in the media recently about a quarter of councils in the United Kingdom not being ready for the introduction of food waste collections. And some of them are having to postpone them for quite a long time before they can start. I wonder if you can update the council on Preston's situation, which I understand is something quite different.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, we do have some good news to report on this. So thank you very much, Councillor Saxena, for your question. So obviously, as we debated and we've obviously voted on reports to enable us to be able to collect food waste and the positive benefits that food waste collection will have in terms of, methane, etc., and helping for the environment. The positives are quite evident. We are planning to start our food waste collection on the 4th of April this year. So caddy distribution started on the 23rd of March and will continue up until the 10th of April. So far, about 4,600 properties have already been delivered to, which obviously is done by a company that they're doing a lot for Lancashire authorities. Our comms team as well have been doing a lot of pieces of work on this, trying to get the mess out in social media. I know that a lot of national news fronts as well are trying to advertise as much as possible to try and get that message out. So hopefully in Preston we'll have a good uptake of that, because we'll be starting at the time we should be, which is obviously in line with other news as well. And as Councillor Saxena said, we are way ahead of other authorities as well. The vehicles are in place. The members of staff we're employing an agency as well while we recruit the permanent members of staff before we get started. But not only are we focused on the food waste within the waste department, there are going to be a number of changes. So it's something maybe for councillors to note as well. There are going to be round changes starting on the same time as food collection waste on the 20th of April. The last changes to major round changes were in 2012, and obviously since 2012 we've had a number of new houses erected in Preston. There's a lot more much bigger population, and we're always trying to make things as efficient as possible. So some of the major changes you'll be seeing is for recycling. They're no longer going to be done in just one bin wagon. They're going to be done by two, collecting the two separate recycling wastes, and they'll be done at different times of day. The comms will be distributed a bit closer to the time, so hopefully on the week commencing the 6th of April. So maybe just a note to fellow councillors that if you, as of the 20th of April, you hear complaints, you get emails, phone calls that your bins haven't been collected, try and ensure your residents are looking at the leaflets that are going to be distributed, telling them of those round changes. And another good news as well from the waste department is batteries. I know when I was in ONS for about 6 or 8 months ago, this is one of the topic conversations. It's a national issue. We've had bin wagon fires, from people putting batteries in our bin waste disposal vehicles and then them setting on fire and causing massive damage and putting our crews at risk. As of the 16th of February, we started to collect batteries. And we've only had 2 complaints so far from residents about how they've been collected, which we're working on, which actually is not too bad really, particularly with these changes. We expected to empty the container every 3 to 6 months at the Argyle Road depot for the amount of batteries are collected, but it's been full up within 3 weeks. So it's been a really, really good uptake in that. We don't have any sort of figures in terms of weight, but obviously if anyone wants to contact myself or Mark regarding that, we'll get those figures when we have them. So really positive news. But I guess just please be aware of any residents contacting you as of the 20th of April regarding those round changes. But we do think it'll be more efficient for us, hopefully reduce our maintenance costs. And again, you know, we're well ahead of the curve in terms of the food waste collection. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Have you got a supplementary, councillor Saxena? Thank
I'm
you.
done.
Councillor Akhtar, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question for Councillors Coupland and or Councillor Rawlinson. It's regarding the disabilities facilities grants that the council provides to the community. We all recognise the considerable additional burden, financial burden that falls upon people living with disability, whether young or old. And I know this is going to come up in the budget later on, so I don't want to preempt that discussion there, but I just wanted for us to be reminded of where we are in terms of disabled facilities grants and the distribution and that scheme, and how we might meet some of the shortfalls where that might be the case. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Akhtar. I'm just trying to get my iPad to my notes. The first answer to the question that you raised in terms of could you say how you've tried to meet the need. The DFG is a statutory entitlement to the council, cannot refuse to accept or consider applications. The majority of the funding to meet the need comes from the annual government capital grant to the council. However, in recent years, three factors have combined to mean the government funding has not fully met the need. Firstly, the number of grants required has increased. Secondly, the actual cost of the grants has increased as construction costs have increased sharply in recent years, almost doubled in fact. So the council is intending to provide 500k, which is in the budget, in its own funding on the budget for DFGs. In addition to the 100k approved last year, it has also changed the grants policy back in November to allow more access to the funding. Your second question, could you say what the scale of the shortfall is and how the council might meet the shortfall? As the budget of 25-26 was fully committed last autumn, no applications have been fully approved since then, and the council's decision to remove the discretionary elements has not had any time to take effect because it only come in effect in November. Applications continue to be received. On that basis, it is not possible at this time to say what, if any, shortfall there may be funding for next year. Thank you, Councillor Akhtar. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You have a supplementary. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rawlinson, do you want to come in? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rawlinson. Did you have a supplementary, Councillor Akhtar? No, thank you. Councillor Nather, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question's for the Leader of the Council, Councillor Matthew Brown. I want to raise again the subject of the busgate scandal, which continues to go unabated with the Reform Party in charge in the County Council, taking lots and lots of money from the residents of Preston in the millions at the moment. And as a council, we agreed previously, we had a discussion, and bar a couple of councillors, we all agreed that it should be suspended or removed. But obviously that's fallen on deaf ears at Reform Party HQ in County Hall. So my question is, what are you and colleagues doing in terms of making representations for the residents and businesses in Preston to try and remove this busgate scheme? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nathan. An excellent question. And obviously I want to pay tribute to Councillor Starr and others that have worked on this. Following the notice of motion, Siraj, sadly, again, we just have had no response from the leader of the County Council, Stephen Atkinson. There was a debate at the Budget Council at Lancashire County Council, I think last week, and every single party apart from Reform seems to think keeping these bus gates is a daft idea because things are not working and there's £2.5 million worth of fines if 120,000 drivers have been affected, etc., etc. So obviously we're raising it through the LCC Labour group as well, and there's other parties that are actually calling for it to be scrapped as well because the evidence is it needs to be scrapped. We have got a bit of a concession. So the county council leader did say verbally at that meeting they will look at some flexibility for, I think, first-time offenders, but for us that's not good enough. The schemes have been an abject failure. They don't have public support, so obviously we need to do more. And I think the main thing we need to do is remove Reform UK from the new unitary council next May, because those unitaries will go ahead. But in the meantime, we'll keep putting on the pressure and engage further with our MPs, both Maya Ellis and Mark Hendrick, on the matter. Thank you.
I just want to check, Councillor Thompson, you indicated, is it because of a question or was it on this matter? This question, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll bring you in first then.
Yeah. Slightly misleading there because the Lancashire County Council have said they look into this and they're reviewing, as Councillor Brown has said, they're actually reviewing some of the processes about bus gates, so it's not entirely over yet, and I think they will make a sensible decision in the end. But you know, so I think we need to stay on the path of truth.
Councillor Potter, you want to come on this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think just for a point of information on this, just to be absolutely clear, the Lib Dems and Labour put forward an amendment to scrap the bus gates, which was obviously voted down by Reform, but also abstained by both times by the Conservatives. So of the council groups in this chamber, it is only Lib Dems and Labour who have said they want to scrap the bus gates, not the other parties.
Councillor Sarwar?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not going to say too much of it, but just echo points from Councillor Brown and Councillor Nathan. The issue isn't around first-time fines; it's around the flexibility, the layout of the road. It's reduced flexibility, it's increased congestion, it's created real road safety concerns through the rat runs and the side streets. I mean, we saw 2 days ago with an incident on New Hall Lane where there was a fire that just shut off half of New Hall Lane. Imagine if there was an accident outside the New Hall Lane bus lane, where would drivers go? Would they go round into the bus lane? I mean, Reform might have joy; they'll get more fines out of that. But it is a safety concern on New Hall Lane. I have been clear from the very beginning when it was introduced back in 2024 that we don't want this. Residents don't want this at all. It's a shame that Reform haven't listened. They say they are listening; they're prepared to listen, but when you've had over 500 residents saying that it doesn't work, over 90% filled out a survey saying scrap the bus lane, and yet you still refuse to listen, what does that have to say about yourself as a council? So I'll do my best to keep the pressure on as the local councillor in the ward. I'm sure others will as well. Preston Labour have been clear from the very beginning. If we were in LTC, we would abolish the bus lane. In fact, if we were to get in 28, 27, we would abolish it within the first 100 days, but that's another matter. Thank you.
Can I just check if you've got a supplementary, Councillor Nathan?
Not supplementary, but just to thank the councillor, especially Councillor Sarwar, in regard to the New Hall Lane bus gate for the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Thompson, you have a question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. It's to Councillor Afzal. As a cabinet member for planning, I noticed that you've taken on 2 more enforcement officers in the planning department, and I would just like to ask you: are you going to pursue a policy of looking after our built heritage? Because the built heritage of Preston is in a dreadful state, and will you be pursuing a policy of looking after as much of that built heritage as you can, especially like Arkwright House, which is in a terrible state, and that's an iconic building for Preston? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We do have the extra enforcement officers now in the planning team, and the planning team is actually more better staffed than it has been in the last 10 years. So I believe that the heritage buildings, along with all the other enforcement cases or notice and everything that's served within that team, will be managed and dealt with efficiently. In terms of the heritage buildings in Preston, we have got a heritage member champion that has been appointed this year. So we are working alongside with the task force as well that we meet with every month. So we are definitely working hard on that. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Thompson?
Just a supplementary about what sort of timescale are we looking at? Because obviously buildings, when they start going downhill, it's an indefinite decline, isn't it? Or a definite decline.
Is that timescales in relation to when cases are reported and dealt with by the team? If that's what
Just time scale for actually you bringing in the mechanisms to enforce this listed status, etc., and get something done with these buildings.
Well, when the cases are recorded and reported to the team, there are up to 12 weeks that they have to be dealt with. So that would be kind of the timescale that we're working on. But again, with the team being better staffed than it has been, we're hoping that we'll be sooner than that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of question time. Thank you. Item 6, financial strategy and budget proposals for 26-27. In order for us to set a legal budget today, we have to understand the effect of any proposed amendments on the budget. On your seats, you should have a Cabinet resolution on a white paper, a Liberal Democrat resolution and amendment on yellow paper, and a Conservative resolution and amendment on blue paper. You will also find on your seats details of a response to the budget consultation exercise for information. If any further amendments are moved during debate on the budget item, the meeting will have to be adjourned to allow the Section 15 officer to do the necessary calculations. Please be patient and bear with the officers if this is the case. I am proposing to waive Council Procedure Rule 14.4 to allow movers and seconders of budget motions to speak for longer than the normal 6 minutes. Is this seconded? Thank you, Councillor Brown. Please note that when we come to vote on the substantive motion, when all amendments have been voted on, a recorded vote is required under the Local Authorities Standing Orders Regulations 2001, as this is a budget meeting. Councillor Rawlinson, will you be moving the report and the council tax resolution, which is on your seat on the white paper?
Just the excellent financial management of Preston Council by Preston Labour, the Treasurer, and many staff and officers over our 15 years of political control mean that our budget is now in surplus when many councils are still making cuts. I can't possibly detail everything that's in this proposal in this speech, and it will be a challenge to deliver some of this budget if local government reorganisation moves forward as expected, but we will certainly try. Everything I say today will almost certainly be eclipsed by our plans for the Guildhall, but I'll tell you about it anyway. We have included £5 million for new council housing. This has been the leader's dream for many years, and we're really pleased to bring that forward. We have proposed a further £1 million cost of living package. The details will be announced in the coming weeks. Some of the things that we funded in October's cost of living package have some separate budget lines. So this 1 million will go further and will include new items and hopefully be delivered just as well by Councillor Kelly. Over 1.5 million capital for protecting council-owned heritage buildings and other important assets around the city and on parks. I'm sure Councillor Afzal and Councillor Bailey will make sure those go ahead. 1.5 million extra for Preston Guild 2032 and the Preston Guild officer to be recruited as soon as possible to begin to build momentum for the Guild. That cash is on top of the council tax contribution forecast in total to raise 6.6 million. And I do appreciate Labour Group's support in my obsession with this. There's over 20 jobs. Someone said there's 30 jobs in this proposal. It's quite hard to work out. There's definitely over 20 new jobs in this proposal. Many of them are skilled jobs to help us deliver our programme. We've obviously lacked capacity in a lot of areas for a number of years because of the funding reductions. And we do have a new corporate plan and performance plan that Councillor Desai has done a lot of work on. New CCTV and lighting in parts of the city centre and high crime areas. A lot of the women in the Labour group have championed this, as did Sarah before she left. We're really proud of the progress we've made on women's safety and street safety in the last year or two. Various pots of funding have been created, some continuing on from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is ending, for events, arts, culture, sport, health, and the voluntary sector. Obviously, details on how people can apply or how we're going to distribute those will come out. Councillor Coupland has already spoken about disabled facilities grant, but we have put extra money in. We know that there's great need out there. We've included funding for a new comedy festival in 2027. That could be a major event going up to the Guild, an extra event for the city. It's an established company that do this. I've seen what they do. It's fantastic. And again, more detail will come out about that. There is further cash for climate crisis events and schemes and money for community-owned energy. Councillor Sarwar has been a fantastic champion. Cash to support digital inclusion. It's been one of Matthew's. Obviously, digital inclusion or digital exclusion contributes to poverty without a doubt, and you can save a lot of money if you can get online for certain things. Although we do promote shopping locally, of course. And there is cash, new cash in the budget for co-op education and the innovation sector, which Councillor Wise has been championing. So we get to the Guildhall. Can't really talk about the Guildhall without giving a little bit of background. Obviously, you all know it, but despite speculation in the press, we have no immediate plans to demolish that building. The only reason it ever closed was because of the government funding cuts. We wouldn't have transferred it to a new owner if we could have afforded to keep it. We could, of course, made a £1 million cut somewhere else, and not by transferring the Guildhall, but that was impossible at the time. If you saw the amount of savings we were making already, we had 3 major savings drives of, you know, £3 million a time. It just wasn't feasible to find another million from somewhere else. So we did transfer the Guildhall to a new owner. When it became apparent that that new owner couldn't make it work, we took it back. It cost money to get it back, unfortunately, and it took time. But the council did save £5 million when it was out of council ownership at a time when we were, you know, under incredible pressure. The problem is it hasn't delivered a sustainable concert venue for Preston. And now the rat has blown a hole in these plans. So what's the answer now? At a time of a cost of living crisis, when public funding is still tight generally, hospitality and events industry is having it tough. It's a tough time to be talking about entertainment venues. We've received reports from industry experts on the events industry and also structural engineers. The cost of a new Guildhall is way beyond this council, and possibly beyond any new unitary council. In fact, the figures we're being quoted are so high. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be ambitious and pursue that. So we are proposing a twin track approach for a maximum of 12 months to explore whether that level of funding for a new purpose-built events and conference venue that would serve the region, not just Preston. Is that feasible? Figure out whether that money is out there at all, whether it's government money, grants, sponsorship. We're going to look at that. At the same time, we will design and cost the renovation of the existing Guildhall. But within 12 months, we should be deciding which track to pursue in earnest. So we'll be making progress on both those possibilities. We are spending a total of 20 million new capital in this budget and 13 million new revenue spending. That's an incredible amount for a below inflation council tax rise. I have some points from the Treasurer, some important points. The fair funding review, as the government call it, has resulted in more funding for the council, and it's based on deprivation and population. We were previously being underfunded on those bases. Council has achieved savings from the triennial pension review, which helps us, of course. We've got very effective treasury management. We're getting greater returns on our reserves and using internal borrowing on many occasions rather than external borrowing. And of course, we have growth from the house building. The forecast is based on the council operating on an ongoing basis until the structural changes order is passed in Parliament. So people wonder why we've got a 4-year forecast and all this spending when the council may disappear. Until we're told we're definitely disappearing, we have to carry on regardless. The forecast shows the council will be in a surplus position and have sufficient reserves to go into local government reorganisation. We're in a good position to do that, whether we want to do it or not. And we believe the other councils are too. That has been the discussion between the councils. I really hope you can support this budget, and I'd like to thank the Treasurer and the Labour Group. And I move, is it 2.1?
Is it still 2.1 in the report? It's 2.1 and all. Thank you.
And 2.2.
2.2.
Yeah.
I'm on my speech.
Councillor Brown, are you seconding, please?
Second, but formally request my right to speak later. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak on this item, please? No? No? Okay, we'll move on to say that the Liberal Democrats group have an amendment to the Cabinet budget proposal and the council tax resolution, and it's on the yellow sheets. Councillor Darby, are you moving the amendment, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I am. Thank you very much. So with our budget here today, we're at a turning point in Preston's history. We have sweeping local government reform just around the corner. We have the 2032 Preston Guild just on the horizon. And we are on the verge of local elections where potentially on today's polling, Labour may stand to lose their majority control of Preston City Council for the first time in over a decade. This is the background to the budget that we're having today, as we look to make Preston a better place to live. The Liberal Democrat proposals are based on three overriding principles for what we believe this authority should be looking to achieve, which is fairness for our residents, prosperity for Preston, and a city that is inclusive for everyone. Madam Mayor, the budget before us today represents a choice between the same old politics that we've had for the last decade or so, or a fair deal for the people of Preston. For too long, residents have been taken for granted by a council that prioritises headlines over results too often, and vanity projects over meaningfully improving the lives of residents. Fairness means ensuring that every pound of taxpayer money is spent effectively, transparently, and in the direct interest of our communities. Our budget begins by addressing just one of the examples of the wasteful spending, and that is that we are proposing the immediate removal of the £750,000 commitment to the community bank. This is a high-risk project with no evidence of success, and there is nothing tying it to our city beyond our money being thrown into it. There is nothing to ensure that it has a base in Preston. There is nothing to ensure it hires people from Preston, and there is nothing to ensure a single penny returns to Preston. It is the quintessential vanity project that we are all paying for. Furthermore, we are calling to stop the proposed £5 million spend on council housing. While the Liberal Democrats recognise the national housing crisis, spending £5 million to provide just 18 homes is not a meaningful solution. With queues in the hundreds for every single select move property that becomes available, just 18 new houses will do nothing at all to deal with the issue here in Preston. It's poor value for money that fails to address the scale of the challenge that our families face. Instead, we choose to put that money back into our communities to make a noticeable difference to our neighbourhoods and to the lives of residents. One example is by reversing the green spaces charge on our parish councils. It's fundamentally unfair to ask people in parished areas to effectively pay twice for the same service of maintaining public land. By removing this double taxation, we are standing up for a Preston that is fair for residents. Building a city that is prosperous means moving beyond blind ideology and focusing on tangible results that reward hard work. We believe in the businesses and people of Preston, and our budget is designed to give them the opportunity to grow. To kickstart our local economy, we are proposing a grant scheme for small startup businesses. This initiative will contribute up to 50% of workspace costs in the first year for new Preston-based businesses that employ local people, working to ensure that Preston becomes a hub for innovation and high-quality jobs. Alongside this, we will commission a fully independent review of the busgate schemes. We've already talked about this earlier today. We have tried, as Liberal Democrats and Labour at County Hall, to try and get this overturned, and has fallen on deaf ears from Reform so far. So we're taking a slightly different tack in trying to get a fully independent review to show what the impact is on the economy of Preston, so that we can prove that it should, in fact, be removed, as we have been arguing. We need to understand the true economic impact that's had on the city to ensure that our transport network facilities grow rather than harming the city centre and hindering local residents. Prosperity also means future-proofing our environment. We're calling for a feasibility study with housing associations to develop a roadmap for the large-scale installation of solar panels, heat pumps and insulation. This isn't just about reducing our carbon footprint, it's also about building a case for national investment from the government, from the Green Investment Group, formerly the Green Investment Bank, to lower energy costs for thousands of our residents. Particularly important as we potentially stand on the edge of another energy crisis with the war raging in the Middle East. To provide immediate help, we will also commit to working with United Utilities to supply domestic water butts to residents on a first-come, first-served basis, working to reduce water waste across our city. By investing in these foundations, we are ensuring that Preston's growth is sustainable, rewarding, and built on the success of its residents. Madam Mayor, a city is more than just its balance sheet. It is defined by its heritage and the strength of its neighbourhoods. Our budget ensures that Preston remains inclusive for all by protecting the generational assets that tell the story of who we are in this city. To safeguard our historic buildings and our history, we are proposing the addition of a heritage legal officer tasked with enforcing the protection of our historic assets and a heritage building officer to monitor them and to seek ways to bring them back into everyday use. We cannot allow our proud past to continue to fall into disrepair through neglect. We must use every tool available to preserve these buildings for future generations. Inclusivity also means empowering the local groups that make our communities safe and vibrant. We will provide grants to friends of library groups across the city, transforming these vital spaces into true community hubs, led by local residents themselves. Furthermore, we will support constituted pact groups, that's place and community together, with funding to help their work, connecting the police with our community, helping to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour in every part of Preston. These resident-led groups can form the heartbeat of our local democracy. And as we have seen in England Tanton, they can be the transformative nucleus for new parish councils who can make a real difference to their areas. Finally, a fair society never leaves the most vulnerable behind. Our budget includes a dedicated homelessness support officer to provide direct intervention for people and families who find themselves at risk of losing their home, ensuring that our city provides a safety net that is truly inclusive for all. Madam Mayor, as we look towards the sweeping changes of the upcoming local government reorganisation, we must ensure Preston is ready to lead. Our budget is not just about the next 12 months, it's a roadmap towards the 2032 Guild Year, a celebration and unique tradition that has defined our city for over 8 centuries. The time for sticking plasters on the past is over. It is with sadness that we are calling to end the uncertainty surrounding the Guildhall by halting the waste of public funds on a building that is neither usable nor does it seem feasible or economical to renovate. Instead, we will ramp up preparations for a new multi-use Guildhall facility to serve as our city's cultural heart. This budget provides for the demolition of the old site, a public consultation for the new vision, and the creation of a robust business case to secure the necessary grants and funding and to begin the difficult process of finding the partners and funds we will need to build the next generation of Preston's Guildhall. However, we will not wait until 2032 to start the work. We will partner with our anchor institutions immediately, including the University of Lancashire, to plan for large-scale indoor events as a part of our historic celebrations in the environment where the Guildhall is no longer available to us. We are also looking to the next generation, giving them a tangible stake in our city's future. A part of that includes looking to give our youth council £10,000 budget, which they can look to spend themselves on what they, as young people for our city, see fit. We will also build 8 new destination multi-age play parks across Preston, replacing old sites with brand new facilities across the city, from Ashton Park to Fishwick and Frenchwood. We would also like to invite the parish councils across Preston to join us in this mission, utilising our combined purchasing power to upgrade local parks at the best possible value. To maintain these assets, along with our existing public parks, crown jewels of our city, we will hire 5 new apprentices for the Parks Department, providing young people with essential skills while future-proofing the team who work so hard to maintain and improve our green spaces. Madam Mayor, this budget proves that the Liberal Democrats are ready to move Preston from being taken for granted to a city ready to thrive on the national stage. I'm proud that Liberal Democrats in Preston have worked hard to put together this budget to stand on the principles of fairness, prosperity and inclusion for all. This is the basis of what we stand for here today and is also what we stand for in our Guild City Manifesto, which I know some of you have had the pleasure of reading already. We'll be launching it properly later on this month. Looking to the past, there is a long history of Preston of Labour voting down our budget, only to implement parts of it within months. A heritage officer, a climate change officer, some work on the leisure centres, guild funding, so much owe themselves to our past budgets being retroactively adopted. So I do look forward to, in due course, Labour implementing our manifesto. But for today, I commend this budget to the council and I hope you'll support it. Today, that is, not tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Is that seconded, Councillor Potter?
I second that, Madam Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Speak on this. Councillor Wise, please.
Surprise, surprise. I knew our budget would get attacked. We've got a fantastic budget and I want to defend some of it. So first of all, council housing. Well, you've got the figures wrong. It isn't 5 million for 18 houses. And Councillor Potter knows that well because he was at overview and scrutiny. So perhaps you need better communication between your group. So you're actually telling a pack of porkies there. We believe that it's actually really important to have more social rent accommodation here. In the last decade, only 144 social rent houses have been built. That's a scandal. Many people can't actually afford so-called affordable rents. And so that's why we need social rent accommodation. The government has actually recognised this with the new social and affordable homes programme, which will be led by Homes England, which actually has the aim of 60% of homes being for social rent. I know what was said at overview and scrutiny, that maybe we should be leaving this to the registered providers. Well, unfortunately, the registered providers haven't provided the social rent housing, and that's why we've needed to step in to do this. So I think it's really important. And I mean, obviously, we can't talk about all the costs above the line, but we know that we've got 186 households in Band A where the applicant is urgently in need to be moved or rehoused, and 50% of properties on Select Move are for that group. So us getting these houses, it's only the start, I can assure you. In terms of that you want to scrap money for Preston Cooperative Education Centre and Cooperative Development Project, I don't know how many of you, well, some of you were at the police thing that we had earlier today. I don't know how many ate the lunch, which provided by Lady Boss. Lady Boss, you talk about inclusivity. Lady Boss is very much about inclusivity because it's actually about supporting women from our Black and minority ethnic community. And what our support has enabled them to do is those women, instead of individually working alone in their homes, not, dealing with effective food safety, have come together, been able to do all the qualifications, and they now have set up an enterprise which will become a cooperative. That is something that I think should be applauded and something that we want to continue to do. They now want to do a cleaning collective, and again, it will become a cooperative. You slash that money, that is stopping it. That, as far as I'm concerned, is not being inclusive. We've actually, in terms of, so yeah, there's Lady Boss and there's the cleaning collective. In terms of other things, we're still absolutely passionate about cooperatives, and some of the money is continuing to be working with the co-ops. So, for example, we're currently looking at a model for workers' cooperatives for people who are self-employed. And that is something we will then continue to be doing with this money. We're also looking at a training kitchen. Again, that needs money from this budget because we want to ensure that young people have the opportunities to learn these skills and to become a cooperative. And so if you do that, you take away that. As far as I'm concerned, that's not being inclusive. We're looking at taxi cooperative again. We're working with a bloke in America who's actually developing an app so that we can have a sort of Uber style, but not Uber style wages, a real living wage. Again, that's about inclusivity when you look at who the drivers are of most of the Uber cars and indeed of our taxis. We're working with Deeds Not Words and continue to work with them. And that's about women who've been in the criminal justice system. So I think it's really important that actually we continue to have this money. And lastly, I want to come to what you claim is our vanity project, which you say is going to be of no use to people here in Preston. First of all, you talk about grants for small businesses. Well, actually, that'll be peanuts in terms of what's required, because what a bank will do is actually be able to lend to small and medium enterprises in this city. And actually, by having the first branch actually is here in Preston, and I thought you would have known that, considering I've said about it in the past. We'll actually be having a manager who knows the local people, knows the local companies. We're making fantastic progress in terms of the bank. There's a small risk in terms of the money, but if I say they've had a session on Tuesday with the regulator about progressing the banking license. It's progressing well through the challenge stage, as called by the Prudential Regulatory Authority. When they've concluded the challenge stage, the bank will officially be invited to apply for the full application for the licence. The bank expects to do this in the next couple of weeks, sorting out the final queries. What they need to, and these are not fundamental issues, what they're doing is submitting a capital document and a liquidity document. These are standard documents that are required by all new banks. However, the Bank of England has changed the regime for all new banks, and this is why North West Mutual has got to update these. Investor Progress, there's already another local authority in the Northwest has expressed an interest, and we expect that to be finalised in the near future. They're awaiting feedback from a social investor body, a trust. They're about to undertake the due diligence concerning what would be their investment. They're in discussions with a professional body who raise funds for non-mainstream banks. They've done recent raises for other building societies, and they're looking to do something similar for this bank. That is the purpose of the organisation. And lastly, in terms of full investment and banking licence sequencing, the Bank of England will determine the amount of capital which has to be raised. It's expected to be about 30 million. However, an important point to note is it doesn't all have to be raised from day one. What is initially required is sufficient money to enter the period with restrictive licence and also to exit to the full licence. The total value is £9 million, and this is made up of two elements.
Sorry, Councillor Wise, your time is up. I'm afraid.
Thank you. So what I'm saying is this is actually something that's really important for people in Preston and for businesses in Preston. Thank you. I urge you to vote against the amendment.
Thank you. I've got a few speakers. I've got Councillor Brown next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, it's very predictable, isn't it? It seems to be no issues with our budget apart from the socialism. You take the socialism out every single year, the Lib Dems. I mean, Valerie's been very, very eloquent, but what I would say is just relying on housing associations to provide the social housing that we need. We do know some of them are very large. We know some of them are not that very well managed. We do know that in our communities we represent, the less well-off communities, there's excessive charges. There's not a responsive nature to them. They're not perfect. So obviously what we're doing is saying back into council housing, and then obviously with whichever council we end up with, we will get a housing revenue account. And I think council housing will be very popular. In terms of Preston Guildhall, what you're doing is stupidly removing an option. It's really important to have options available to us to do this, because you're going to demolish the Preston Guildhall. And I remember the budget back in 2012. When Bill Shannon and John was there as well, we had proposals to demolish the Guildhall, demolish the bus station, and all the rest of it. It was there to demolish the Guildhall. So you guys are wreckers, to be honest. So we're being responsible with that. We, in the real world, realise sometimes you cannot attract investors from outside, and that we do need to look at whether we can refurbish it ourselves and turn it into a very unique kind of venue, and we're looking at it pretty well. In terms of the heritage assets buildings, the reality is we've done as much as we can, and our officers work very hard on that. But it's the austerity programme imposed for 14 years, with you guys for 5 years running it. You know, you're making a big thing about, you know, champion heritage assets, but you imposed austerity on these communities. We didn't have the money to, you know, buy buildings and improve buildings. We didn't have the money to do the things we wanted. You guys put us in a dreadful position with the austerity programme. So this budget is very predictable. It's not taken us anywhere. And as Valerie says, people are suffering exploitation in our community, in the gig economy. These people matter. People who work here as our cleaners, they work here as security guards. They're entitled to a real living wage. The travelling community, that we save the site through community wealth building by acquiring that site and turning it into a cooperative to prevent 100 people being potentially evicted when the toys were selling at a county hall. They matter. The digital cooperative we're supporting that's giving people free Wi-Fi and free devices. This is part of this agenda. So as usual, this is a very short-sighted budget from the Liberal Democrats. It's not at all cutting edge. It's not dealing with the inequalities we face within Preston society and the reality that people face here. So I urge everyone to vote it down and support our budget later, and look forward to the rest of the speeches, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thanks, Councillor Darby, for presenting the Liberal Democrats' amendments for our budget. We obviously, as Martin has said, we're talking about spending, you know, millions and millions of pounds here and there in your budget, and obviously our budget as well. But I actually want to just focus on a small sum of £80,000. And Madam Mayor, I'm going to be, it's my opportunity to take a little pot shot if that's okay. The past couple of budgets, we obviously debated about the Evelyn Pavilion Cafe, about having £80,000 in it. I've noticed that nicely the £80,000 isn't in your budget. And that's because we made that political decision to keep that cafe in-house. And obviously this financial year, we've not only broken even on that cafe, but we've actually made a small profit on it. And hopefully that will be able to reveal those figures at the end of this financial year. And the next financial year, we're looking to make further money on that. So not only have we kept it in-house, we're also providing a good service to those residents and people that are attending the park, and also providing a good real living wage to those workers in the park, in the cafe as well. So I just wanted to have that little pot shot, because I know in the past couple of budgets that's been quite a contentious decision. And again, thanks very much to Mark and Shirley as well for all the hard work around that cafe. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Henshaw, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a few little points. The results of the budget consultation, only 9 people actually that live in Preston responded to the budget consultation. That's really quite upsetting, actually. But then regards to the Lib Dem amendment, Neil, you presented it absolutely beautifully, and there's an awful lot in that you've spoken about that I agree with. But I'm really surprised that, considering the Lib Dems nationally seem to be more socialist than the Labour nationally, I'm really surprised you want to take out the council houses, and it upsets me that you want to take out the community bank. We desperately need a North West community bank. You raised some interesting questions about it being of benefit to Preston, and now I'm going to have to go to Valerie. Valerie's enthusiastic response answered all my questions that came into my mind after your presentation, and Valerie, you spoke with enthusiasm, and it was fantastic to hear you. And I just want to say I cannot support your amendments, even though there's a lot I agree with, because I support the socialist aspects of the Labour ones a lot more. Thank you. That's all.
Councillor Potter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, wonderful speech by Neil. You can see, obviously, I've been the warm-up act for the last 12 years, all waiting for him to come and do this. Yeah, I mean, it is very interesting, some of the points that have been raised. So on ONS on Monday, as Valerie has talked about, both cabinet members and officers said very publicly in the public part of the meeting that there were no options outside of direct council ownership that were even considered for this housing, even if, because they didn't consider it, even if other options could potentially have helped more people for less money, They would not consider it because of an ideological bent that they had to be owned by this council. We, as Neil has said, we're in favour of getting more social rents. We know there's a shortage of council houses, but wasting money potentially or not using the money as well as you could is not an acceptable use of funding. And that's driven, unfortunately, I think, by Councillor Brown's ego, wanting this before he potentially loses his majority in this chamber. I also want to talk about the bank that Valerie says. She says, oh, don't worry, the branch is going to have its first branch here in Preston. They can't guarantee that. By law, this bank. So, but they can give you as many warm words as they want. You cannot guarantee, as Neil said, a single thing, because that bank has to function as a bank first. And that was in your own report. And let's not forget, this is also a fee-paying bank that's due to help the poorest people in Preston. It was always a daft idea. Now, Councillor Bailey stands up and talks about interesting that Councillor Bailey, despite being the cabinet member, hasn't really risen to talk about the over £1 million getting play hubs across the city to help his parks and his department. When you come to ONS next, which you did previously and said, you know, it's a struggle this because we're going to have to decide maybe between a couple of centrepiece play areas in some areas or smaller ones elsewhere because we just don't have the money. You have had the chance to have money now and you've turned it down. And that's your watch, your cabinet, your portfolio. So that was very interesting that you didn't mention that. And then you're talking about the Guildhall. First of all, I have to correct Councillor Brown, because what he said was an untruth. We did not, and never said we would knock down the Guildhall. No. So let me get this out, and it's on record. What we said is actually, because we did say about the bus station, because it would have financially crippled this council. But what we did say is actually we would have to look for outside investment because this council couldn't keep on supporting the losses it was going through. And we said if that didn't happen, given the financial straits, there was potential it would have to be mothballed. But what you did was exactly the same thing, just years later, but wasted millions of pounds in your delays. And this is a thing we get from this Labour group. It's ignore now, think about it later. We've had it on numerous issues over the 15 years I've been on this council, and it keeps on coming back and back again. And so what we're doing is actually saying, look, enough of these random vanity projects to help the leader's ego or to help some socialist idea. And I get it. That's your politics. That's fine. It's not mine. We believe in actually being pragmatic and doing things for the good of the people of Preston. So where you might put money in a bank that has no guarantee of helping anyone in Preston, we're going to make sure children have fantastic play areas across our city. And I tell you what, I'll guarantee you, the people of Preston will prefer what we're saying than what you are. And they'll have that judgment in May. And because you know you're rushing through all this various stuff because your power is coming to an end in this chamber. You might be the largest party, you might get a coalition of other people propping you up, but you are going to lose your majority. And all your budget smacks of is a desperate attempt to be relevant when you're about to lose power. Brilliant speech, Neil. I commend this budget amendment. It's what Preston needs, not what you guys want. And that's what we're here about for the Lib Dems. Thank you.
Councillor Landless, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just feel it's a need to, I don't want to steal Max's thunder because he's up next. But yeah, Neil, it was a good budget, well presented. Really, my group can't wholly support your budget because there's sort of three things that we don't entirely agree on. The first is the council tax, as you'll see from our budget that we're putting in for a nil increase. So that's one of our overriding principles within our budget, which we don't agree on. The second was your position on the council housing, or the social housing. We actually believe in taking that social housing forward. I think it's an important step forward. So that's an area that we just don't entirely agree on. And the third thing is really the situation with the Guildhall. I've listened to both arguments. I think John just put his fairly strongly just then, and Matthew, the leader before then, put his argument. We take the similar stance of the Labour ruling group, that the two-tier approach, I think, is more appropriate. But well done. It was a good budget, good speeches, but we can't entirely support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't got anybody else's hands raised, so I bring back in Councillor Jewell now to second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are a few things I actually agree with Martin on, which some people might fall off their seat hearing me say that. And I agree with Councillor Rawlinson on condemning those areas within our communities who trash our city and say we're a broken country. I condemn those areas of our community who criticise Brits because they look foreign and challenge their right to vote here. We do not want Trump's America to become Farage's UK. There are other aspects that we really do agree with around the Labour budget. I'm particularly pleased to hear the additional elements around the disabilities grant funding. And all of Labour's aspects we have embraced with the following exceptions. So this is very much a liberal budget, very much trying to push decision to the lowest level of decision making that is sensible. Examples being giving a budget to the Youth Council. For example, grants to constituted police packed areas so they can make decisions about their local priorities as far as crime is concerned and other aspects. And providing grants to Friends Library groups who I think we will all agree do absolutely fantastic work in their communities through our libraries. There are other aspects in here that we have added to our proposal. Investing in the future for further apprentices, parks apprentices in particular. The parks are one of our greatest assets in this city, and we want to invest in them going forward, as well as further heritage officers and enforcement officers as well. It's all there in the growth aspect of our proposal. And how would we pay for that? Well, with any investment decision, it is always about what is the investment you need to make going forward, not what you've already sunk into the investment in the past. And there is still a further £250,000 that that this administration wants to sink into a community bank. And whilst there are some positives about community banks, we've said before, they are embraced on the continent. I can think of 2, perhaps 3 mutual banks on our high street in Preston, and none of them charge, as far as I'm aware, an annual fee to their customers. So we really do question, who are your customers for this bank? We simply do not believe that this is the best use of taxpayers' money. On social housing as well, you know, we've heard about the leader's dreams and the sort of ideological position, which is evidenced by the fact that no alternatives were considered. And I think our position, whilst it was mentioned about other social housing providers, we made a decision some years ago to transfer our stock to social housing. And I think our position is not necessarily never, but now is too little too late when you consider we are moving into a local government reorganisation where we may well be unifying with other local authorities who have well-established council-owned social housing. So it's not the principle that we're against, it's the timing and it's the timing that we particularly have an issue with as well. And there are other demands on housing around disability and other disadvantaged people that we also need to think about. The Guildhall is, if there is any example of where Labour are throwing good money after bad, it must be around the Guildhall. Last year, the Lib Dems proposed a feasibility study, and I'm kind of pleased that Labour have followed our lead again, and kind of a feasibility study this year in their budget. But what they also want to do, if I've heard you right, is continue for the next 12 months to put money into renovation aspects of the Guildhall. And I just reiterate that our position, we've been there, we know where it is, we just need to flatten it. We need to demolish it so that when the next authority, the unitary authority, comes along, they have a clean slate with which to build a purpose-built events venue for a city of Preston. And I mentioned earlier about our parks being such a fantastic asset for Preston. I think in many ways, they probably define Preston to a large degree, providing respite to the hustle and bustle of life. And we would invest additional funds into those play hubs across our city, as has already been mentioned. Finally, parks on the west of Preston will have investment in them, parks like Ashton Park and Haslam. So, Madam Mayor, just a very quick recap of the Lib Dem budget and perhaps answering some of the questions that have been posed. And I urge this council to support this amendment.
Councillor Rawlinson, do you wish to reply on the amendment?
The Liberal Democrat budget amendment is an absolute disaster for Preston. An utter disaster. We're in a housing crisis and they're going to scrap council housing. We're in an access to finance crisis. Your average person in the street can't get a mortgage, they can't get a business loan. They're going to scrap the bank. And they're going to demolish the Guildhall with no guarantee of a replacement. It's a complete disaster for Preston. Do not vote for it.
Right, we will now move to the vote. Right, calm down, everybody. Can all those? Okay, yeah, that's. Do you need two for a name? No, done. Councillor. Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you, members. As you'll be aware, you are voting on the Liberal Democrat budget amendment. Start off with Councillor Afzal. Councillor Akhtar.
I'm voting against the Lib Dem amendment, right?
Councillor Atkins.
Abstain.
Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bell. Councillor Brooks. Councillor Brown. Councillor Coupland. Councillor Crowe. Councillor Darby. Councillor Desai. Councillor Duke. Councillor Green. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Guise. Councillor Henshaw. Councillor Hindle. Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Iqbal. Councillor Jewell. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Khan. Councillor Korbaki. Councillor Landless. Councillor Little. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Napper. Councillor Patel. Councillor Peake. Councillor Potter. Councillor Raisbeck. Councillor Rawlinson. Councillor Rutter. Councillor Saxena. Councillor Sarwar. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Van Mierlo. Councillor Varty. Councillor Vora. Councillor Ward. Councillor Mr. Whittam. Councillor Mrs. Whittam. Councillor Wise. Thank you, members.
Right, there was 14 for, 21 against and 1 abstention, so the amendment is defeated. We now move on to the Conservative Group amendment to the Cabinet Budget proposal and the Council Tax Resolution, and these are on the blue sheets. Councillor Green, will you be moving the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today, I'm pleased to be delivering the Conservative Group budget. In preparing this budget, we've thought very carefully about how best to serve the people of Preston. We've listened to residents, what matters to them, what concerns them, and what they expect from their council. At a time when households continue to face rising costs and ongoing uncertainty, we believe the council must respond responsibly and with the interests of residents firmly at the forefront. That is why our first proposal is simple and clear: a 0% increase in council tax for the coming year. Year after year, we hear that increases amount to just a few pounds. Those few pounds add up. Many people who are already tightening their belts, every extra cost matters. At a time when bills continue to rise across the board, we believe the council should do what it can to ease the pressure, not add to it. Quite simply, we can afford to hold council tax at its current level, and residents deserve that support. Alongside this, we have reviewed areas of spending where we believe resources could also be better directed. Firstly, we propose an adjustment to the capital programme by removing the proposed £750,000 investment into the community bank. We have remained consistent with this one over the years, and we believe that those funds could be better used to support projects with more immediate and direct benefits for residents. Similarly, we propose reversing the £500,000 investment for the Preston Cooperative Centre and Development Project Manager, again with the view that these funds should be prioritised elsewhere. We also propose reversing the £100,000 feasibility study for relocating the Argyle Road depot, along with the relocation project itself. Air quality monitoring takes place in the area to ensure there are no negative effects on residents from this site. The depot currently occupies a central and practical location for operational purposes. Relocating it would involve significant costs and logistical challenges, not least the relocation of fuel storage facilities. Finally, we propose reversing the £109,000 allocation for a new comedy festival. While cultural events are important, we believe this level of spending could be better aligned with other initiatives, such as the Preston Met, which already provides opportunities for community engagement and events across the city. However, I do want to be clear, this budget is not simply about cutting spending. It's about redirecting resources into areas that will make a tangible difference for Preston residents. One of the most significant challenges facing this council is local government reorganisation. While we may not yet know exactly which authorities we will join with, what we do know is that councils across the region are already preparing to ensure they're in the strongest possible position for the residents. Preston must do the same. Our officers are dedicated and extremely hard-working, but the additional workload created by LGR will be considerable. For that reason, we propose the creation of an LGR local programme office fund, providing additional staffing capacity to ensure the council can continue delivering services effectively while meeting the demands and deadlines of reorganisation. Protecting the heritage of our city is another priority. Concerns around heritage buildings are raised regularly, and rightly so. Preston has a rich architectural and cultural history that must be safeguarded. We therefore propose 2 dedicated officers for heritage building protection and enforcement, alongside external legal support where required, to ensure that important buildings are preserved and protected for future generations. Turning to planning enforcement, this is an issue many residents care deeply about. At the last full council, you'll recall I raised concerns about enforcement capacity, particularly in relation to ongoing cases such as the chicken factory. Investigating and pursuing planning breaches requires sufficient resources. While we understand that the number of enforcement officers has recently increased to 3, we propose a further 2 officers, bringing the total to 5, so that enforcement across the city can be carried out effectively and promptly. Preston is also fortunate to have excellent parks and green spaces supported by a dedicated parks team who work tirelessly across the city in all weather. The work is visible in every ward and appreciated by residents across Preston. While we welcome the additional posts already proposed within the park service, we'd like to go further by introducing 2 parks apprentices so they can support the existing team and the fantastic work already taking place across the city. As we look ahead to the end of Preston City Council and the local government reorganisation, we believe it is also important to consider the legacy we leave behind. This is why we propose the creation of a legacy tree fund to support tree planting across suitable locations in the city in the final 2 years. These trees will be carefully placed where they can thrive without causing issues for pavement, properties, and creating a lasting environmental legacy for the future. Environmental concerns also extend to the persistent problem of fly tipping. In the year ending March 2025, Preston recorded 5,642 incidents of illegal dumping, the second highest number in Lancashire, and the highest number of large-scale fly tipping incidents. The cost of cleaning this up ultimately falls on taxpayers. We therefore strongly support the Council's proposal for additional CCTV to tackle fly tipping hotspots, and we propose further funding to expand this coverage, including in rural areas where incidents are often more difficult to detect. Earlier, I mentioned the Preston Met, which we believe is a fantastic initiative, bringing events, performances, and activities to communities across the city. However, when the Met was first introduced, there was an expectation that it might be more mobile, reaching different neighbourhoods to serve more of the city. For that reason, we propose an increased budget for the Preston Met, enabling it to travel to additional areas across the city, including rural and outer Preston. Locations such as Whittingham Green, Conway Park in Greyfriars, or South Grove Park in Sherrow Green could provide excellent community venues before the current plans see the Met located in Ribbleton. Supporting young people is another important priority. In the past, we've proposed the creation of satellite youth hubs, and we believe this remains a strong idea. With the opening of Vault, there is an opportunity to expand youth provision beyond the city centre by delivering activities directly into communities, whether through events, sports sessions, or partnerships using existing playing fields and facilities. We also recognise that access can sometimes be a barrier. That is why we propose an Outer Preston youth travel programme, helping young people who live further away with travel costs to attend Vault. The 50p entry is an excellent initiative. And by supporting travel costs, we can ensure more young people benefit from what the youth zone offers, improving well-being, confidence, and opportunities during a crucial stage of life. At the start of this speech, I spoke about listening to residents and focusing on what matters to them. The installation of public defibrillators across the city saves lives, and I strongly support their continued expansion. Building on that, we propose installing bleed control packs alongside these defibrillators. In situations involving serious injury, such as accidents or violent incidents, these kits can help stop or slow severe bleeding while emergency services are on the way. We all hope they'd never need to be used, but the reality is that when they are needed, they can mean the difference between life and death, and we should have them readily available across Preston. Finally, I am particularly pleased to introduce our proposal for a baby box fund, an idea I've long supported. Inspired by the well-known Finnish baby box model, these boxes provide essential items for newborn babies, including clothing, nappies, blankets, and a safe sleeping space. They're designed to ensure every child has the best possible start in life. While it would be wonderful to provide them universally, the cost of doing so would be significant given the number of births each year. Instead, our proposal focuses on supporting those mothers and families who need the help most, ensuring that those facing financial or personal challenges receive practical support at a vital time. This budget is fundamentally about putting the people of Preston first. It recognises that residents are under pressure, and that the council must act responsibly with public money. It focuses on practical support, keeping council tax frozen, protecting our heritage, investing in enforcement, supporting young people, improving our environment, and providing help where it is most needed. We're here to represent the people of Preston. We've listened to them, and these proposals reflect what they want to see from their council. I therefore ask members of this chamber to support this budget and the positive difference it will make for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Just before I bring Councillor Landless in, who I understand you're seconding the Conservative amendment, I know there's been a bit of kerfuffling around in the chamber, so let me just clarify the numbers. So for the Liberal and Democrat amendment, there was 14 for, there was 29 against. That figure was incorrect, and 1 abstention. And we didn't miss you out, Councillor Desai. You're on here because I understand we thought you'd been missed out, but anyway, that just clarifies that because there's a bit of things going on over there. Councillor Landless, are you seconding the Conservative amendment?
I'm indeed seconding the motion, the amendment, and reserve the right to speak, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Potter first.
Thank you, Councillor Green, for moving your amendment. I think there's plenty of very good stuff in that. Obviously, it puts us in a slightly difficult position because one of the key planks of our budget amendment isn't in yours. So and you know, we believe we've talked about the council housing issue, putting that many millions of pounds into such few houses, we don't think is sensible. So the fact you're doing the same as what Labour's doing, it makes it impossible for us to support your budget. I mean, it is amazing. I'm trying not to make jokes about you cancelling a comedy festival and being the fun police and stuff like that. Of all the things you think of cancelling, the actual comedy festival's one. I mean, why don't you wait and see how successful it is or isn't before, for the sake of 109,000, it might be revolutionary. It might, you know, we all know city centres and all that are struggling beyond retail, and actually things like cultural issues and events are the things that are going to help our city centres grow. And the only other thing, like I say, there's loads of stuff in here that I quite like. And I would, if it wasn't for some of the glaring differences between our budgets, I would support it. But I'm not going to vote against it. I'm going to abstain on it because I think there's some worthy stuff in here. I will just say we should absolutely treat with caution especially what happened with reform candidates last year, any politician that promises freezes on council tax, because that was all over reform leaflets last year, and we all know they've absolutely reneged on that because the realities of local government finance make that virtually impossible to do. And the last time the Tories did that was when Jeff Driver did it at County Hall, where not only froze it, he reduced it, and the knock-on effect of that, including the compound effect on interest rates, cost the county hundreds of millions of pounds. So obviously we're a small authority, so it won't be that much, but it does have a very serious knock-on. And to be honest, given how Reform have behaved with it over the last year, I just don't think the electorate will believe you're credible with a 0% increase in council tax, because we've heard it before from Reform, and now we're just getting a carbon copy from the Tories, and it won't actually come into effect. So, like I said, great speech, some good virtuous stuff. Unfortunately, we can't support it.
Thank you. Councillor Desai. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but just looking at the Conservatives' amendment, there's a couple of good things in there, and I commend you for coming up with this. I'm particularly interested in the bleed packs because we talked about period poverty and we brought that to council in the past. So that's interesting. I'd like to explore a little bit more about that, and also the baby packs. We'd probably look at needs and whether the people are on benefits, etc., before we'd consider something like that. But in terms of your inflationary freezing council tax, it's just impossible. The budgetary effect that will have, it'll come back to bite you in the next budgetary cycle, If you freeze it now, that 3% turns into 6%, 7% once compounded in the next cycle, and it just makes it impossible. You talked about travel pass for young children attending the youth clubs. This is something that we're considering anyway. We'll cover that hopefully in the future. But again, I commend you for some of the ideas, and it's refreshing to hear them. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Desai. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Being on my own, I can't really put a budget together, so I'm going to support one of your budgets. So, although I don't agree with everything, I will support the Conservative budget because there's a couple of things on there that I particularly like. Just as a footnote to what we're doing, Councillor Potter tells us that Reform have no credibility. Well, after all the Fib Dem things that they say, I think they have no credibility whatsoever. So let's not go there. Right. First of all, rural inclusion, I think, is very important, and I know that that is covered with some of the things that the Conservative want to do. The youth centre, which is the building over here, is a fantastic facility, but we do need to be able to get this out to the rurals as well, because when I was a lad, I was out in the field or on the beach all the time. So it won't matter to me whether I was in a studio or not. But these days, people are different. Young people like to be involved with internet and doing things like that. So we've got to look at what young people want. And social inclusion is one of those. The issue of council houses. Now, I'm all for the private sector. But if the private sector are not actually providing a particular service to people, then why can't the council go ahead and build those council houses? They are in need. I've just recently done some casework where a guy has been very ill and is in rented accommodation and he needs a 4-bedroom house. It's quite difficult to get these things. My issue with the council houses is how we're going to prioritise who goes in them. So that's a discussion for another day. But so I'm not against them at all. I think there is a need for them. The Preston Cooperative Education Centre, I take your point, Councillor Wise. I think training is essential for people, giving people that little hand up, just a little gesture to get them off the floor is a good idea. I remember a friend of mine who fell out of the industry that I was in for a while, and when he came back, I gave him a few hours help with his training, and he was back in it, and he's done very well since. So those little things do matter to people, and I think when you're flat out, you don't have a lot of prospects ahead of you. Just a little bit of help can make a big difference, and so point taken with that one. The bank, which is, I'm not quite as dramatic. I think a bank, it can make a lot of money. I mean, banks make money, don't they? Let's face it. So there is a possibility that this bank could make money. But my issue with it is, should Preston City Council be risking this money? Is it the council's job to risk this money, this amount of money, to actually fund a bank? Because it's 250,000 now, is it? And then another 750,000 later on. And if it works, if it comes off, Preston City, or whoever the authority is, if it comes off, and there will be a stream of income coming in from that, and that would be great. But it's not a risk that I think that council should be taking. It's not for us to put taxpayers' money into a scheme like that. So I'm being practical about it rather than anything else. But I know the Liberal groups sort of singled out this youth parliament and giving them a grant. And I notice we've actually gone for including the Conservative budget includes more slip of the tongue.
Right, can we calm down, please? And remember, Councillor Thompson, you're speaking about the Conservative amendment.
I am,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm talking about all the people that support their budget, which could include we. So anyway, if we want to get into semantics, I know those sort of things excite the Liberals, so we better mention too many of them. Right, so yeah, so right, yeah, so I think the Liberals are a little bit with this youth issue, which I don't think the Conservatives are doing, is the Liberals seem to be confusing the Youth Council as a vehicle for education, which it should be. My daughter was on the Youth Council, and it is not. It's not an instrument of governance, which I think they seem to like quasi fitting it into.
Final minute, Councillor Thompson.
Yes,
It's a long 6 minutes.
So can I have time off for this? It's not disturbing me. So I will support the Conservative motion, and mainly because of two things. One, the bank, which I think is a risky job, and number two is keeping council tax at 0%, no increase at all. I think that is a big plus. So thank you, Mrs. Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Brown, please. Thank you.
Just very briefly, well spoken, Maxwell. Very good speech indeed. As you can imagine, we will not be supporting this because we do have our own budget. But what we are quite interested in, because we've been talking about it as you've been speaking, is things like the baby boxes and the bleed work that you're looking at. I mean, what we can do is look whether we can incorporate that into the cost of living work that we're doing, the £1 million, because, you know, especially on this side of the chamber, we're very keen on tackling all kinds of child deprivation and other things, so, and women's rights and everything. So we'll look at that as well. And we also just think in terms of the pragmatic position you've taken around council housing, we do welcome that as well. It's very strange that on that, both yourself and Reform are to the left of the Liberal Democratic group, which is very strange, but I think it says a lot about the current state of our Liberal Democratic group that they're even further to the right than Reform UK in this chamber. So some good ideas, Max, and we will look at these seriously. And thanks for having at least an element of pragmatism and not naked political ambition within this. We do appreciate that. We'll take your, we'll look at your ideas going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hindle, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a couple of points. One of them is just to reassure you, the baby box is a good idea, but we are working with Tippy Toes, which is based in South Ribble. So at food banks, if somebody comes and they're in desperate need, they can be referred there. Also, the family hubs, LCC, do actually help newborn families. And we do have like a special WhatsApp group, and we may not have nappies, but someone else may, and we all work together. So just to let you know, people are not left behind completely in Preston. I wanted to mention a little bit about the investment in art and culture. It's so important for individuals' health and well-being. It creates a vibrant city for our residents and visitors and supports the local economy. So art and culture, in the form of our community wealth building events programme, as well as the Harris Museum and Library, help to tackle social injustice. They celebrate the rich diversity of our great city and what unites us rather than divides us. They help bring communities together, add prosperity and income to local businesses in the city, and of course bring enjoyment to our communities. You mentioned the Met tent being in areas like Whittingham, but one of the main reasons we are moving it to, say, Lear and Larches or Ribbleton is because we've looked at the indices. These are indices of deprivation. So those people may not be able to get a bus fare. They certainly may not have their own car. So even our free events like our egg rolling, which are loved by so many people, some people just cannot afford to, which is sad, but they cannot afford to go to them. So that's our sort of methodology as to where we put them. As I mentioned, art and culture are important in society, and I'm proud that our budget, the Labour one, supports the sector. The arts offer is more than just for aesthetic pleasure. They promote empathy, creativity, and understanding. These expressions nurture innovation, civic pride, and mental well-being. So therefore, I cannot, accept your budget proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hindle. Councillor Kelly, please.
Yeah, Max, or just some of it insight. Thank you. I mentioned the blood packs. The blood packs, we're already in conversation with the industry and also with the Preston bid. Positioning the blood packs with the defibrillators in a safety box is the preferred method in most cities, and that's so once we have extra defibrillators in the city, we can then do the blood packs. They're not cheap, so we're working with there are a number of charities who support the blood packs and also the defibrillators. So so it's something that's definitely on the radar. Thank you.
Councillor Henshaw, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Another very well delivered budget amendment by the Conservatives. Nobody's mentioned the irony that we need all these nice things because of all the years of austerity and the cuts and the impact on people's cost of living because of the crisis that the Conservatives put us in. But hey, I just thought I'd mention that. I just also want to mention on here that you want to take out the investment for Argyle Road feasibility study and the the idea of moving the depot on Argyle Road. Have you walked around Argyle Road? Have you spoken to anybody that lives there? The air quality is poor, the vibrations are poor. Did you say it at the beginning when I nipped to the loo? Sorry if you did, but it's awful for the people that live on Argyle Road. That depot has come to the end of its life. We need a brand new, big quality depot where we can actually charge electric vehicles. We can't do that from the depot there. We need the digestive system, what's it called, the anaerobic digesters that's Argyle Road's far too little for. We really need to get with it, and the idea of a new depot away from where it's a very built up area has got to be looked at. It's really got to be looked at. Yes, it might be futuresque, but it doesn't matter. This is a budget for the next few years, and I think it's really important, and we should not be missing out the people that live around Argyle Road. So I will be able to support this. And there's lots of other good stuff in that I like the youth hubs and everything, but don't forget LCC, Conservative run LCC slashed all the youth services. So yeah, there's an irony here that nobody's picked up on, or you probably have, but maybe you've been too polite to say and I've not. But anyway, yeah, thank you. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you. No, not yet. We're not moving to the vote yet, I'm afraid. We've not even finished the seconder yet. Councillor Thompson, what were you trying to say something?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I was just making the point that actually the camera's on me rather than a councillor here giving the speech.
Okay, the camera was on the wrong person. Right, okay, thank you. Right, okay, I've got nobody else indicating they wish to speak on the Conservative budget. So Councillor Landless, you exercise your seconding and you would speak now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief, as I always am. Thank you first to Max's first budget speech. I've had the onerous task of doing it over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's not easy, and it was an excellent presentation and well thought out budget. And thank you to the finance department, Jackie Wilding's team, I know, who offer tremendous support whilst doing this process. Yeah, thank you for your comments. I had my tin helmet on, ready to sort of record the sort of slagging off that we were going to get and what have you, and we got off rather lightly, even from JP, the leader of the Liberals. I do thank everybody for their constructive comments, including our Reform councillor, who seemed to support us somewhere along the way. I do thank you. Yeah, the core principle, to pick up Councillor Desai's point, and probably a point that the benches over there are thinking. Yeah, when Max did this budget with the finance team, we looked at it, it was a balanced budget, and they wouldn't have let us put through a 0% increase in council tax if it wasn't going to work, if it wasn't a balanced budget. They wouldn't have permitted us to do it. So it has been thought out. We weren't being financially irresponsible. There was money available to be able to do this. I mean, I've tried to do it in the past, and obviously it hasn't worked because there was no money available because of, I'm told, times of austerity and everything else. It was a very complicated process over the previous few years trying to present a budget. So, you know, that's my simple answer to that. Yeah, I mean, we've taken out the old chestnut. You knew we were going to. Every time we sit down to do a budget group meeting or a budget with the finance people, they say, well, the first thing you're going to say on your capital is take the costs out to the bank. I'm not going to go into the debate again about the merits of putting forward the bank or what have you. It's an overriding principle with this side of the room that, you know, we don't feel it's the appropriate thing to do with the funding. I really don't want to say any more. It was, you know, for a change, the Conservatives don't tie us in with the national scene or what's happening at LCC or what have you. You know, we're only a little group, but we're actually quite a caring group. And we tried to come up with something different, which would benefit the people of Preston. You know, I know there's 4 of us sat here, Madam Mayor, so we're not going to sort of really influence the whole budget process anyway. But we thought we'd put forward a sensible budget, which, from the response we've had, some of you have agreed with some of the points we've made. And indeed, I'm pleased to say about the blood packs and that you're going to take it forward anyway. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Councillor Rawlinson, you have a right to comment on the Conservative amendment. Thank you.
Good effort, but it's a no from me.
Okay. So we're now going to move to the vote. Yep. Have you got a seconder? Okay, thank you. Can you remember to stand up, please, when you're addressing me? Thank you. That's a bit trouble later.
Thank you, members. As you will be aware, you are voting on the Conservative amendment to the budget. So alphabetical order as ever, starting with Councillor Afzal. Councillor Akhtar.
Against.
Councillor Atkins.
Abstain.
Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bell. Councillor Brooks. Councillor Matthew Brown. Councillor Coupland. Councillor Crowe. Councillor Darby. Councillor Desai. Councillor Duke. Councillor Green. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Guise. Councillor Henshaw. Councillor Hindle. Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Iqbal.
Yes.
Councillor Jewell. Councillor Kelly.
Yes.
Councillor Khan. Councillor Courbaki. Councillor Landless. Councillor Little. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Napper. Councillor Patel. Councillor Peake. Councillor Potter. Councillor Raisbeck. Councillor Rawlinson. Councillor Rutter. Councillor Saxena. Councillor Sarwar. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Van Mierlo. Councillor Varty. Councillor Voira. Councillor Ward. Councillor Mr. Whittam. Councillor Mrs. Whittam. Councillor Wise. Thank you, members.
We're just checking our maths here at the moment, just so that we get it right. Okay, it's 23 against, abstentions 15 and 6 for, so obviously that's defeated. Thank you. So we now move back to the substantive motion. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Potter, you want to speak on this? Thank you.
Just incredibly briefly, Madam Mayor, because I think there'll be a few members in this chamber who this might be their last budget in this chamber, and I'm particularly thinking whether Councillor Saxena does intend to retire or not this year. He's obviously served this council for so many years, and going through 40 odd budget sessions must get you some place in heaven somewhere to have to do it. So on behalf of anyone who's retiring, especially if someone has value to this council as Councillor Saxena does, then thank you for your service for this council.
It may have been your last budget, Councillor Saxena, but we still have April to go. Just in case we think it might have been cancelled, it hasn't. Thank you. Councillor Henshaw, you indicated you wish to speak, please.
I just have 2 or 3 questions on the Labour budget. How do you want me to do this? Do you want me to wait until it's been presented, hasn't it? Can I just ask them now, or do you want me to put them in writing?
Yeah, you can ask the questions because I bring Martin back in anyway after I brought in Councillor Brown.
Right, okay, thank you. So I was wondering if I could have a bit more detail about the free or reduced parking, which is on page 67 of the budget. It's page 85 of the agenda, 67 of the budget. But yeah, just a little bit more detail on the free or reduced parking, implications of that. Yeah, when it is, where it is, that kind of thing would be good. So that was one question. I had another question about the Preston Guild officer, and then it says 0 next to it. It's on the same page. Is that because we're not having one just yet? So just elaborate a bit of elaboration on that, please, will be good for me, if you don't mind. On page 89, which is page 71 of the budget, it talks about social prescribing. I just wondered, it's quite hard to assess how well social prescribing does, and I wondered how it was going. Could you give me an update, Zafar? I'm happy to just have a conversation, but I certainly picked up on it. If we're investing in it, I'd like to know how well it's doing. And my last question is on page 98, Appendix B, and it talks about a task group for cost of living. Actually, I think you can forget that one. Forget that one. I think I've had a semi-answer about that one before coming today. So no, that's fine. Forget that one. It was just those 3 then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henshaw. Now, Councillor Brown, I bring you back in because you reserve the right to speak as seconder, and then I bring Councillor Rawlinson in as his right to reply on the substantive motion, and then we go to the vote. Obviously, I've got that right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, can I just thank John for the kind words about Councillor Saxena. We will not be revealing our candidates until early April or whenever the announcement is. But obviously, yeah, if what you're saying is true, we do echo the service John's done for this council for over 40 years, and actually sitting through these budgets is a task in itself, isn't it? But again, from our perspective, if Jonathan does retire, a big thanks from us. So obviously, yeah, very proud of this budget. It's the best one we've done in 15 years, basically because it's an end to austerity with Preston Labour in this council, you know. And if you contrast this budget with the cuts efficiency savings and privatisation, reform-led county hall, you see a big difference. We're doing none of that. The spending's an extra £30 million, current spending over the life of the forecast, and this is transformative levels of money for people within our community. So we're pleased through the dark days of austerity to be able to actually spend a lot of money on people who need it within our community. Now, obviously, the government forecast and the government money we received has been very positive, but I also want to pay tribute to Martin and my whole team here, because we do have increased business rate retention. We do have increased council tax rates. We're getting more houses built, many of them affordable homes. They're paying council tax. And that means that obviously we've got more to spend on the community. But I'm also quite pleased the gap is basically increased between us and the opposition parties, because we are very keen to continue our economic radicalism. You know, we want to move beyond the failures of this council simply just pleading to global corporate developers to come in and do business in our community. That didn't work and it hasn't worked before. And I fear the strategy you have with the Guildhall will see exactly the same thing. If you look at the Tide-Borne regeneration scheme, we waited for 12 years to get the money. It didn't happen. So we are proud to be building council housing, expanding worker ownership, building stuff in public ownership, over 1,000 jobs by what we've done with the Harris Museum, with the Animate Cinema, with the Mountainous House. We're pleased to have done that. We don't want to see wealth extracted. We want to see it benefit people, and people then have decent terms and conditions on the work that we did. And also as well, we're very proud about the money that's going to go in for city centre regeneration. Obviously, the issue around heritage assets, it's one we have and will take seriously. We've done that for some time, and there's flexibility within the staff that we do have. But the reality is many of these buildings are in the private sector. You know, if you look at some of the things we do want to bring back, we don't own them. I would love to be able to compulsory purchase them and have the money to do something with them. Let's get artists in there. Let's get whatever, small businesses, community groups, but we don't have the money, and that is down to the 14 years of austerity that we've sadly had from the Lib Dems for 5 years and then the Tories with them. That is the reality of what we face, but we're going to do what we can to bring those empty buildings back into use. But obviously, another £1 million for our cost of living programme. You know, everyone is of equal value in this community. I say it every time. We can't judge people by the size of their wallets. And the reason we're taking a more radical economic approach is not because of my ego. Believe it or not, I don't have a very big one. It's because people are really suffering out there in our community. We want to look after them. You know, and this is why we have done things like £400 for the poorest families who are affected by the benefit cap, £100 for less well-off pensioners, free swimming, and if you're going for the trauma of a terminal illness, you don't have to pay council tax. These are political choices we made, and I believe these are the choices that this side of the chamber would make, and I don't think that side of the chamber would make. You know, more money for improving housing standards and landlord licensing. You know, some landlords are good, but I think more about often bad in our community. You want to make sure that people live in a decent house, that we actually regulate the houses in the private sector and restrict new HMOs. Money for making our community safer, including new CCTV. And I want to pay tribute to all the women members in this chamber about what the work we've done around making women and girls safer. It's really important out there. Women are scared in the nighttime economy and beyond. You know, many women go through physical and sexual assaults, and we're taking this seriously as a council, putting resources into it. Very important. Support for the creative sector. I mean, what is very exciting me is the 200,000 we're getting in there to basically take over some of these buildings and commercial units that we can't get back into use through conventional measures and have them as artist cooperatives and collectives. That's a really creative, cutting edge way to run our local economy, making us more like York and Bristol, places which are creative, that are buzzing, that have young people expressing themselves and students and everyone really. More investment in our parks and destination play areas. It's been a huge investment we've secured for all our parks. 20 million is going to be more. Obviously, we do want to deal with issues that are causing environmental damage, like the railway line in Deepdale. You know, you've got volunteers out there. We want to bring that back. We want to bring it back for a cycle lane or something. We ain't going to, as well, not support tackling net zero on Councillor Sarwar. That's a huge part of what we're doing, including supporting community energy. Then also other things that are really important in this budget. We have to take very difficult decisions around new cemeteries and cremains under Council Afsal. Very important that we do actually have those provisions for all our communities going forward, because they're going outdated as well. And then as well, there's stuff that we are doing, which is not our responsibility. It's LCC's responsibility, the new youth zone. We asked the Conservative County Council to do that. They said, no, we provide the land, we paid revenue money to do it and capital money. The tram bridge as well, we asked the LCC to do that. They said, no, they're responsible for roads and bridges, we are not. So we're taking on responsibilities that should have really been done by the county hall. And obviously this Labour Council's doing that, and the Conservatives, and definitely Reform, they would not put money into that. But for me, politics is about results and who's benefited. 2,600 affordable homes in the last decade. We want a lot more of them to be social homes. Over a quarter of Preston workers receiving the real living wage of £13.45 or more. Benefits young people, benefits disabled workers, benefits women, benefits minority communities. Nearly 1,000 jobs by regenerating the city centre publicly, not singing to the tune of global developers like we did before. The lowest rates of child poverty in Preston compared to similar Lancashire councils of similar levels of deprivation historically. Massive public investment and employment in our parks and open spaces. The new jobs we're going to have through this. And then more cultural activity in Preston with a growing nighttime economy, with businesses like Choose Yard opening recently. Councillor Kelly very much having a hands-on approach to the nighttime economy. So what we're doing also is valuing our communities equally. We value everyone, and we're proud to do things like be a city of sanctuary, support all our communities. But the network of dozens of food hubs and support for the most vulnerable has been very, very popular. So again, I think this is the best budget we've done. Thanks to Martin, thanks to all my team. You know, we're here to make changes, and we look forward to the election battle going ahead, because we're proud to be socialists on this side of the chamber. That's not going to change. We're going to have a distinct set of ideas, and we hope to win people over. And, you know, we're going to tackle those inequalities and put people first, as we've always done within Preston Labour. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rawlinson, you have a right of reply now on the substantive motion.
So, yeah, I think Jonathan was actually finance member for a time. I thought you were cabinet. I thought you were finance lead at one point. Right. He's always been very good on finance anyway. It's been incredibly helpful at budget time. It was on the budget working group this time. So, yeah, to answer Carol's questions, there's no detail yet on the free parking that I'm aware of, free or reduced parking. It's a small subsidy to probably encourage city centre, you know, shopping and nightlife, but I don't think the actual details are out yet. The guild officer, it's actually in there. We're going to take the money from the guild money, which, you know, there will be plenty of. And the social prescribing, I kind of agree with you. There are some very good models, social prescribing, and some not so good models. So I'll be interested to see where we get that from, and the actual model used. I'm sure we can give you the detail fairly soon, hopefully. But yeah, that's it. Please vote for this budget.
Thank you. We'll now move to the name vote, please. Name vote, that's fine.
This is required to be a named recorded vote. And as members will be aware, you are voting on the substantive budget proposal by the Labour administration, again in alphabetical order, starting with Councillor Afzal, Councillor Akhtar,
For.
Councillor Atkins,
For.
Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bell, Councillor Brooks, Councillor Brown,
For.
Councillor Coupland, Councillor Crowe, Councillor Darby, Councillor Desai, Councillor Duke, Councillor Green, Councillor Gregg, Councillor Guys, Councillor Henshaw, Councillor Hindle, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Jewell, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Khan, Councillor Kulbaki, Councillor Landless, Councillor Little, Councillor McMahon, Councillor Napper, Councillor Patel, Councillor Peake, Councillor Potter, Councillor Raisbeck, Councillor Rawlinson, Councillor Rutter, Councillor Saxena, Councillor Sarwar, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Van Mierlo, Councillor Varty, Councillor Voira, Councillor Ward, Councillor Mr Whittam, Councillor Mrs Whittam,
Against.
Councillor Wise. Thank you, members.
Oh, press the wrong button then. Gosh, I know, press that button. Right, okay, we've got the results in. 24 for, 20 against, and no abstentions. So the budget is carried. The substantive motion. Thank you. Item 7 is notification of changes to membership of committees. Are there any? No. No, thank you. Item 8, special urgency decisions, but there are none to report at this meeting. Item 9 is the date of next meeting. The ordinary meeting of the council is on Thursday, the 16th of April at 2 p.m. in the town hall. That concludes this meeting. Thank you for your attendance and your patience. Have a nice night.